following program contains explicit calls to political action. If you are addicted to the tax-exempt status, Randall might not be right for you. Check with your little sister.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Speaking the truth when others hold their tongues. Wrestling for justice with left-wingers and crocodiles. Resisting the temptation to keep the peace at any price. The only talk show host who writes his own theme music, Randall Terry.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Pope Francis still making waves. Oh, they're little ones. They're inside of a foot washing basin, but they're waves nonetheless. And the poor, lost, misguided souls in the Connecticut legislature have decided to become a part of the former Soviet Union's gun control policy. And could it be that anybody would scam the system on disability? I'm a writer. I've got writer's cramp. I can't write anymore. Send me money, Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam, I need you. I'm not trying to be unkind. I'll leave that to Granny Jihad.
Oh, dear children, when you grow up, you want to grow up in House of Islam, which is peace. You do not want to grow up in the house of war. Listen to Muhammad.
Welcome to the program, friend. You're going to want to stay with me through this whole show because I have had a conversion. I am now 100% in the camp of the Connecticut legislature that has outlawed certain guns, certain magazines, requiring background checks, requiring the registration of certain magazines. I am 100% converted, and I'm going to share with you why and how we can extend that to the protection of all Americans from the violence and the pollution that is destroying this country. So please stay with me. But first, I want to talk about the new Pope, Pope Francis. He continues to make waves. In case you did not see this footage, during Holy Week, every priest participates in foot washing, including bishops and cardinals and even the Pope. Notice that he's wearing his deacon alb. That is such a profound statement. For those of you who don't know, the deacon alb goes from left to right. It looks like a sash. It cuts across the body, whereas a priest goes around the shoulders and comes on both sides. The word deacon is where we get the word servant. So here we have the Pope, the pontiff, the prince of the church who sits in St. Peter's chair, washing the feet of young men and women, derelicts, some of them, in trouble with the law. I don't mean to say derelicts, that was unkind, but young people in trouble with the law. One of those girls was a young Muslim girl. What a statement of kindness to her. And I hope that reaches out into the Muslim world. But I have to say this because I want you to understand what is happening. I don't know the intentions of Pope Francis, but I can tell you what inevitably is the fruit of it, and that is this. It is a rebuke to clerics, to ministers, to priests, to pastors, to preachers, from every stream of Christianity. Rather than proceed with not only high drama, but with the trappings of his office, the Pope is wearing the deacon's alb. He's saying, I'm a servant. washing and kissing the feet of young people, some of whom are in trouble with the law. It's a rebuke to the clergy who love the robes, the trinkets, the sizzle and the gold and the silver and the purple, all of it. And by the way, I want to make something clear. I am absolutely 100% in support of garb, clothing, that says, I am separate, okay? It's a part of the history of Judaism and Christianity. You have to remember that with the Orthodox world, the Anglican world, the Episcopalian world, the Catholic world, the Byzantine world, the reason that they wear garments is it's a throwback to when Aaron and the priesthood and the Levites wore special clothes that says, I am separated to God. That's all. And by the way, the Nazarites had long hair, all right? That was a sign, an outward symbol. Many denominations, perhaps one that you were baptized in, they wear white robes on the day of their baptism. So garments do have a connection to Christianity. It's an outward sign of an inward symbol and a dedication to God. So I'm not opposed to that. But there is this thing, you can feel it sometimes, where people might just like the color and the drama and the flash and the flare just a little bit too much, and it's not mingled with and tempered by service, dedication, humility. And so here we see the Pope wearing his deacon's alb. I'm a servant, and I'm washing the feet of these people. What a great, great, great rebuke. And think of the words of Jesus. He said, beware of the scribes who like to go about in long robes and love salutations in the marketplaces and the best seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at feasts, who devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation. I tell you now, in the presence and in the fear of God, that the most frightening gifts that we get at our ministry are the envelopes that come with $1 or $2 or $3, because we know that those gifts come from a widow and she's giving us her widow's mite. We don't want to make long pretenses of long prayers. We want to live in the fear of God. We want to love the unlovely. We want to follow the example of Christ. And dare I say, the example of Pope Francis as he goes forward. And two other quick things. I know I'm over time, but I got to say these because I want to move on. Number one, he went to the necropolis after Easter Sunday. And if you ever get a chance to go to Rome, in my opinion, Rome is the most important city you could go to except for Jerusalem. If you're going to take 2 foreign trips, go to Jerusalem and go to Rome. Underneath St. Peter's Basilica is the necropolis, the city of the dead, where the remains of Peter the Apostle himself yet exist. It is one of the most amazing tours you will ever take in your life. So he went to the necropolis instead of going to the papal villa where popes traditionally take vacations. And after he went to the necropolis, what did he do? He sauntered back to his hotel room because he hasn't even yet moved into the papal apartments. He's still staying in a hotel. And did he take the Pope Mobile back with bulletproof glass? Nope, he walked. When I come back, I'm going to tell you why soon in America we won't need bulletproof glass. I'm a convert, and baby, I've got the zeal of a new convert. Don't go away.
Randall and I had just returned from the Northwest Territory and went straight to the Capitol. We managed to convince Secretary Seward that Alaska was a ripe plum, and he agreed to finance it. Seward's folly and Randall's folly have a lot in common. They both turned to gold.
How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back to the program, friend. Most of us know of the horrible shooting that occurred in Newtown at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where literally dozens of children were gunned down in cold blood by a mentally deranged young man who used high-powered rifles with big magazine clips, 30-round clips. Well, the legislature of the state of Connecticut has decided that it is going to make schools, the streets, every town and villa and city of Connecticut a safer place. They've passed a law, and I want to go over some of the items of this law with you. It has a total ban of all 30-round clips. You have to register any clips that you have if you own them now. That way, if the government needs to confiscate them, it knows who has them. You will have to get a permit to buy 10-round clips. They are offering, now they have to give you an ammunition eligibility certificate. So if you want to buy ammunition, you have to apply to the state, and they have to give you a certificate that proves that you are in fact eligible to buy it. This is good stuff. I know that there's a lot of Second Amendment people out there, but you just listen to me and you stay with me and you'll understand why this is good. They banned over 100 types of firearms. Just flat out banned them, all right? There's one other thing that's really critical. Oh, the nation's first dangerous weapon offender registry. This is like having a registry for pedophiles. Most states right now, if someone has been convicted of a sexual crime against a child, they have to register, and then the government makes it public where they live. So if you've got a child and you live in a neighborhood, you go, well, he can't go down that end of the street because there's a child molester there, and he can't go over there because there's a child molester who lives over there. It's a way for you to protect your children. So they're following suit with people who have committed violent crimes with guns. That way everybody gets to know who everybody is in this framework. Listen to me. Listen. I'm a believer. I'm a believer. There is no doubt that there is a connection between the amount of firearms that we have in this country, the availability of ammunition, and the number of violent crimes committed with firearms. And so as I thought about this, I thought we need to take this a step further. There have been many studies done for over 30 years now showing a direct connection between violence on television, violence in movies, and that violence being mimicked in crimes. The shooting in Aurora, Colorado involved a young man who came in dressed up like the Joker, okay? He saw violence in a Batman movie, and he mimicked the violence. And so I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to explain how this curtailing or modifying of the Second Amendment is a good thing, and what we need to do is get to the root, what's underneath it, and that is the First Amendment. The First Amendment has got to be modified. I'm going to tell you who needs to have their violent tongue reined in and how it's going to make America safer for all of us. Don't go away.
Bolshevism is not a policy, it is a disease.
Friend, you need to get this book. We Won't Get Fooled Again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy, and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you. Welcome back to the program, friend. The words vile, despicable, cowardly, treacherous, evil, they only begin to scratch the surface of these monstrous men who have committed mass shootings with firearms. And each one of those adjectives, and 100 like them, evil, vile, despicable, these adjectives can be used to define and to describe the purveyors of smut, of filth, of violence, of hatred of women, abuse of children, insurrection against parents in sitcoms, made-for-TV movies, books, magazines. Think about it. Think about it. Every single vile thing that has been spewed out at us for a generation and has been the underpinnings of so much of this violence, copycat violence. And so I submit to you that going after the Second Amendment is simply not enough. It's time that we go after liars. It's time we go after heretics. It's time we go after the purveyors of violence in word. And so what I submit is that we should follow suit. We need to have a ban on certain high-capacity, intensely charged political speech. There's too much division in this country. There's too much incendiary rhetoric. I think that there should be certain words that are completely banned from the political dialogue. It'll help erase and heal some of the divisions that mar us. I think that there should be a limit to certain movies. If a movie does contain scenes of violence, just like there can no longer be magazines that hold 30 rounds, there should be a limit to the number of acts of violence or the number of violent words spoken in any single movie or any single television show or any news broadcast for that matter. Why should news broadcasters at ABC or CNN be able to show acts of violence on TV and say, well, we're actually just reporting the news? No. When children see that news, some of them mimic it. And ABC and CNN are actually perpetuating the violence under the guise of the First Amendment. Let's look further at some of these. They had a ban on 100 types of firearms. I would suggest to you that there are at least 100 types of violence. They had a ban on 100 types of firearms in Connecticut. We should have a ban on at least 100 types or acts of violence that could or could not be shown in a movie. Punching, no more. Spitting at someone, no more. Stabbing someone with a knife, no more. Shooting someone with a handgun in a movie, no more. Even if it's a policeman shooting a villain, how do we know that a child has the ethical ability to separate a villain getting shot or a good guy getting shot? It should all just be banned because it perpetuates the violence. We should have a registry of where these authors live. Let's say somebody works for the New York Times and they have written a story that is against Christianity. Studies have shown that where Christianity flourishes, you have the greatest safety, the greatest human dignity, the greatest honor of women, children, the family. And so if you have an author who works for the New York Times or the Washington Post, and they're writing against Christianity, they are, or mocking Christianity or mocking the church, they're actually paving the way for that ethical rebellion, which in turn leads to more acts of violence. We want to know who those authors are, and we want to know where they live. We want a registry of the writers and the speakers of words of violence and the words that undermine Christianity and undermine this free republic. Do I need to take a break? All right, let me take a break, and we come back. I'll wrap this up and show how it's the First Amendment that's the problem. And if we're going to safeguard our communities and our families, people like Bill Maher, Bill, your days of abusing the First Amendment, they're over, buddy. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. To finish up on this concept, in Connecticut, they have an ammunition eligibility certificate. We need to have a free speech eligibility certificate. No shows can be done that do not first pass muster. If you're promoting violence, if you're promoting lies, if you're promoting the sexual degradation of women or the rebellion of children, if you're fighting against what the founders of this republic stood for, if you're fighting against Christianity, you don't get the certificate. The end. Now, let's look at who we would say farewell to. Bill Maher, you're out of here. Jon Stewart, take your little smirk and go home, homeboy. David Letterman, you'll be funny all the way into retirement. How about Piers Morgan? Get your sorry hind end back to England, okay? George Stephanopoulos, go write memoirs because you deceive people far too often in your role with ABC News. Stephen Colbert, I like you. We're probably going to give you maybe a temporary certificate. See how you behave with it. He's got the Yahweh or no way segment, so he does that. He's kind of convoluted, he's kind of confused, but he gets it right sometimes. I say if we get rid of these people, if we have a free speech certificate, that we can get rid of the underlying causes of violence that are attached to the gun violence. You just witnessed, in case you joined me, what a lie looks like. You just saw me using rhetoric and wisdom, false wisdom, a straight face, and deceit to make a point, to build a case that is, number one, unsustainable, and number two, a threat to our constitutional way of life. All right? If the lawmakers in Connecticut, who are trying to help save us from ourselves, took the same line of logic and the same draconian measures and put them on the First Amendment, that's what it would look like. Do you want to live in a police state? Do you want to live in a totalitarian regime? Friends, you can only have freedom or slavery? Which do we choose? Hey, what happened? Did I lose my free speech eligibility certificate?